What up, Salvador Braven here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel. On the channel, we talk about how to raise money successfully using crowdfunding. And Indiegogo is obviously one of the major global crowdfunding websites that are out there. And today specifically, I want to get into what are the actual requirements of doing an Indiegogo campaign. You're going to know a little bit about that by the end of today's video. And in addition, if you enjoy these videos that I put there on YouTube, please give me a thumbs up to let me know that you enjoy these videos. You love this free information, free education that I love putting out there with this and also with my podcast, all the other blogs that I get out there on crowdcrux.com. With that being said, let's jump right into this video and let's get into some of those Indiegogo requirements which you need to be aware of before you go live with your campaign. Okay, brother, so you've decided to do an Indiegogo campaign. So first of all, congratulations to you, because that takes a heck of a lot of work. It's also something that's it requires a lot of excitement and passion. You really have to be serious about what you're doing and you have to want to impact the world. So congratulations to you for actually making that particular decision. Okay, so let's talk about Indiegogo, right? So some of these requirements that go into doing a campaign. So I'm gonna kind of go through a couple of them and we're gonna expand on them a tiny bit and we'll kind of have this format for the video. So the first requirement that I want to talk about when it comes to doing an Indiegogo campaign is being aware of the prohibited, so I'm gonna say prohibited rewards and also types or styles of campaigns. So you can learn more about this on Indiegogo.com itself. Just look up what is the actual community guidelines when it comes to Indiegogo. And there's a massive list of all the different types of rewards, which you basically can't freaking sell, right? On Indiegogo, things that you should be aware of, things that you can't actually offer as a perk or reward, things that are prohibited when it comes to either raising money for that style of campaign. For example, using securities and trying to give away securities in your company. You can't do that on Indiegogo, you can on other websites, or certain prohibited perks and rewards, being aware of if you fall into any of those categories, and if you do, making sure you modify your campaign or you decide to change the rewards which you're gonna actually give people or give access to when people support your project. The second one that I wanna mention in this list are actually the countries. So Indiegogo is a international crowdfunding website. And they do have a complete list of countries which you can actually raise money from. So make sure that you actually go through that list, you identify that your country is in that particular list, so that way you know that if you're doing a campaign, that it's going to be okay. You don't want to be going 6 months down the road and you're like, oh gosh, Sal, I didn't realize this, but I actually can't raise money, for this campaign because I'm not in a great country that allows Indiegogo, right? So make sure that you're actually looking at the different countries. That's gonna be my next item when it comes to this list of requirements. Número tres is that you gotta be aware of the production stages, or I'm just gonna say stages, of what your campaign is. So there are a few different types of stages. There's the concept stage, there's the stage where you have a prototype, there's the stage where you're in production, AKA manufacturing, and then there is the shipping stage where you're actually actively shipping out your products to people all around the world. So when it comes to the stages, you gotta fit into one of these stages, and you also have to show proof of that. So for example, if you're in the shipping stage, you gotta show proof that you're actually in the shipping stage. Or you're in the manufacturing stage, and this is being made somewhere around the world, you gotta show proof that you're actually in the manufacturing stage to get that kind of designation on Indiegogo. Same thing obviously with the prototype as well. I'd say the vast majority of people that I'm working with are typically with either the concept stage or they're in the prototype stage, and they're really trying to use Indiegogo as a way to get funding to grow the actual campaign, grow the product in a larger way. However, you also have people that want to go just directly into the shipping stage and use the power of the Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign platform and access all of those backers. There's a lot of different ways, but make sure you're aware of which stage you are in. The next requirement is that you need to fit into a category, okay? So you need to look at the actual categories on Indiegogo and make sure that you fit into one of those major categories. Now, these kinds of are grouped into tech and design. They're grouped into categories when it comes to causes and community kind of things. They're grouped into creative categories. Make sure though that you fit into one of these major categories because you're going to have to designate that when you go live with your campaign. If you have a campaign that doesn't need to fit into any of these categories, unfortunately, you can't go live. So this is definitely an Indiegogo requirement, which is be aware of the category that you fit in. The next tip that I want to mention on this video is making sure that you're actually in the right age bracket. So unfortunately, at this point in time, you gotta be 18 years or older in order to run a campaign. And in addition, you need to have a bank account of some kind. And also you need an address. An address where that's going to be actually housed in a residence, which actually, you can have your bank account and your funds be directed to, and also when it comes to fitting into the right country, which you indicate. So make sure you have a bank account, you have an address, and you also are 18 plus. If you don't meet these requirements, unfortunately, you cannot launch an Indiegogo campaign. Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillrite is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The Top Campaigns uses trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillrite today. Link in the description. Number 6, the sixth thing that I wanted to mention in this list, and we're kind of going to have to go up here a bit, is being aware of just the structure of Indiegogo. So I actually have a great video out there when it comes to just explaining how Indiegogo works. And really, I think you should watch that video as well to get a better understanding, a full-fledged understanding of what you need to do in order to launch an Indiegogo campaign. But you gotta make sure that you actually fit into their structure of doing a crowdfunding campaign. So that comes in terms of picking flexible or fixed funding. So funding type. So you gotta pick flexible or fixed funding, and you also got to pick what your duration is. And when doing this, you also have to adhere to what basically their rules are, which is you're going to also give away 5% when it comes to the Indiegogo campaign. So one of the requirements is making sure that you're using fixed or flexible funding with your campaign. The other is that you actually set a duration with your campaign. Every single Indiegogo campaign out there needs to have a funding duration. If you don't, then you can't launch a campaign on Indiegogo. Number 7 in my list here today actually has more to do with actually assembling the campaign and how do you actually assemble a campaign that is powerful. And I would list this as a requirement, and I'll also kind of give an asterisk here to one of these items. So for number 7, you definitely need to have photos and ideally some kinds of graphics that go along with your ask that either explain the actual product, have product related photos of your prototype, or in some way actually show what you're doing and telling the story. So I would say as a requirement, you do need to have text explaining what you're doing. You definitely need to have photos. And I would say kind of as an asterisk here, most campaigns, but not all of them, are also going to have video. I would say one kind of exception to this is sometimes comic book campaigns do not have video. Sometimes in those kinds of categories are more artistic in nature, or more artwork. They don't necessarily have to have videos. However, the vast majority of campaign categories out there when it comes to, for example, tech and design, when it comes to film-based campaigns, the vast majority of campaigns out there do have a video. So you're gonna wanna make sure you got a video, you got text, you got photos. It's the best way to actually encourage people to learn more about your project and also to be influenced, but they come away thinking like, this is actually freaking super cool, and they want to back your campaign on Indiegogo. So I would list this as a requirement just so that you're aware of it and sort of a checklist item when you come together with your campaign. The number 8 item in this list is actually kind of a little bit contentious, and it's actually, I would say, much more in the way of the way that crowdfunding is moving, which is kind of have much more certification process, because so many people have been, back to campaign, and then the founders actually run away when it comes to their money, right? Or not being able to fulfill the actual promises that go into the campaign. So Indiegogo has been taking a lot of different steps, and you can actually look more on my channel and you can see some of the things they've been doing, but you want to do your best effort, make your best possible effort to fulfill your rewards and also to update backers. We're gonna say B. You gotta fulfill your rewards and you gotta update your backers. Now, this is something where Indiegogo has community guidelines surrounding this in terms of messaging, right? So they're basically saying you got to do the best possible job of actually fulfilling on your promises, do absolutely everything possible to get those rewards out there to the people that backed your project. And in addition, if you're going to be going for a long stretch of time, a month or more, you need to make sure that you're updating your backers in order to have a good relationship with your backers, or to make sure that people don't feel like they're being ripped off or something like that. And their mind just goes crazy and wild trying to figure out what you're actually doing behind the scenes. So they are developing more and more community guidelines, a trust program, etc., that go into this, and this goes beyond the scope of this video, but I would say this is a requirement. You want to make sure that you're aware of this, that you're doing your best to fulfill those rewards, and also that you're updating your backers as you're going in the fulfillment process. Number 9 in this list, and I want to make sure I get this right, so I'm actually going to read this off my phone because it has to do with taxes and accounting, and you want to make sure you always get that right. So when it comes to requirement, being aware of taxes, first of all, but the way that it's read is basically if your campaign has raised at least $20,000 and has at least 200 backers, and this is starting January 1st of 2022, you'll receive a notice that you're required to fill out additional information for a tax form. And you're going to complete that form, and eventually you're going to then be issued a 1099-K form, and you'll have all that information when it comes to that. So if you do meet that requirement, you are going to have to fill out that form when it comes to taxes. Taxes honestly go beyond the scope of this video, but it is something you should be aware of, at least as a requirement. But this is very similar to if you're doing a pre-order campaign or you're selling a product online. It's kind of in that same realm. I do have other videos out there on taxes if you want to look those up on my YouTube channel, or you can check out my book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, which also goes into that and more, which is available on Audible. And also got another resource I want to share with you in just a second. Number 10 is actually my item, right? Which is you gotta prepare, okay? And by preparing, I don't just mean, putting together the things you need to do, but really understanding the process, understanding why these campaigns get funded. Why do people actually back Indiegogo campaigns? How do you do your marketing? How do you do promotion? How do you get people excited about what you're putting out there online? That's going to really determine whether or not you're successful with an Indiegogo campaign or with crowdfunding in general. So if you want to be able to do that, I have a great free course for you, which I'm going to link up down below. This applies to both Kickstarter and Indiegogo, which are two very similar platforms. Both in terms of raising money are great. This is also something where if you follow the steps I'm going to mention in this free course, it's going to put you light years ahead of anyone else out there in terms of the tactics, the strategy, the tools, the resources which I introduced to you in this free course. I think you're going to like a lot. So that link is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. I'm going to link that up down below so you can check out that out. And in addition, I also have my book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, which is available on Audible, which I will also link up down below. And for those of you out there that do want a little bit more assistance, I do one-on-one individual coaching calls going in depth through the actual Indiegogo platform, talking about what do you need to do in order to raise money, what do you got to do in order to be successful, and really fit all of this into one simple strategy for you based on your category, based on your product, and really making sure that you do everything you need to set yourself up for success, laying the foundation right so you can have a prosperous campaign, so you can exceed your funding goal, and you can become one of the crowdfunding success stories on my podcast. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please give me a thumbs up if you did enjoy this video. Come subscribe to this channel for more content just like this. And if you have any more questions, leave them down below. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.